Hello, I'm Ken Macbeth. I designed the Macbeth X Series Micromac D compact desktop synthesizer, and today I'd like to show you around the device. So let's get started. Okay, this is the Micromac D, which is the desktop version of the Micromac R, which is a 3U Eurorack unit. This one is self-contained in a sturdy case, and just like the Micromac R, it features three voltage controlled oscillators. We have coarse tuning and fine tuning for each. We have 4 selectable waveforms on oscillators 1 and 2, and 6 waveforms on the oscillator 3. Oscillator 3 doubles up as a low frequency oscillator, also goes into audio range modulation as well. We have in this global section a master tune control, so you can adjust pitch to your other instruments quite easily. We have a generic glide which affects the oscillators and the filter section. We've got a white noise generator here, and we also have a noise as the 5th or 6th setting here, and that's a pink noise, which is great for modulation. There's a mixer here for oscillators 1, 2 and 3, and the third oscillator uses the mixer for modulation of the filter, or oscillators 1 and 2, or indeed oscillator 2. So we have some switches here. This one here switches oscillator 3 to modulate oscillator 2. This switch here makes oscillator 3 track at a far lower level, and it makes for a great LFO. This switch here takes oscillator 3 out of the audio path and also disconnects the CV to make it a true independent low frequency or audio rate modulator. Oscillator 3 can be targeted to the filter using this switch for modulation effects, and this switch here targets oscillator 3 to oscillators 1 and 2. Oscillator 2 can be hard synchronized to oscillator 1, and oscillator 2 can be swept by the filter EG to give typical sync percussive like sounds. The filter, the voltage controlled filter here, has its frequency control, a resonance control. It takes it into a sine wave oscillator, and we have the VCF EG control here. This is the VCF EG. It is an attack, decay, sustain, final decay or release switch here, and this switch can invert the polarity of the VCF envelope generator. This is the voltage controlled amp envelope, and that's used to give you your loudness output, the volume output. There are a bunch of jacks along the front here, and we have 1 volt per octave CV in, and plus 5 volt to about plus 10 volt gate in. You can send what you're sending in here out the way to your other modules that you may have for voltage control, and gate can be sent out. We have for oscillators 1 and 2 pulse width modulation in, which will animate your square wave, making for quite a rich sound. We have separate CV in for oscillator 1, separate CV in for oscillator 2, separate CV in for oscillator 3, and we'll discuss this either in this video or a next one regarding using these as, in fact, 3-note triophony, a kind of slimmed down version of polyphony. We have an external audio input direct into the filter. Each oscillator has its own output, so you can send these oscillators to your other Eurorack system, indeed 5U system, with the right connections. The VCF has an external CV in jack here as well, so great if you're using it with a sequencer. You can allow the filter to track sequences, or indeed another external instrument. And we have the VCA external CV in there, and that will affect the loudness parameter. Okay, built into this is a rather sophisticated Kenton MIDI, which also contains a further LFO with 9 waveforms. It provides the synthesizer with MIDI to provide it with 1 volt per octave and gate. There's MIDI through up here as well, so it can travel on to your other instruments. Also, the difference between the Micromac R and the Micromac D is the inclusion of these 2 LFOs. They're compacted in size, but very similar to the low frequency oscillators that I employed in the Macbeth M5 and M5N synthesizers. For LFO1, we have a rate switch here, general speed of the thing, fast, slow. It can modulate the oscillators, and it can modulate the filter. We have 5 waveforms here. We have rising ramp, we have sawtooth, we have triangle, we have square, and we have sample and hold. The sample and hold derives its samples from what this switch selects. So it can use the noise generator for totally random pitches, or curiously we can use the LFO2 for some pretty interesting scales, staircases, all kinds of things coming from similar waveforms here. There's a trig out, and this trig out can be sent to gate other modules, or in fact indeed gate the Micromac itself from the LFO. And we have what's called volts in. Now this is not 1 volt per octave, but what it does allow is for an external voltage source going from 0 volts upwards to change the frequency or the rate of LFO1. LFO2 is almost similar, but instead of having sample and hold in the 5 waveforms, it has pink low frequency style noise here, which is great for modulation. And it also frees up this one if you want to use all 3 oscillators as audios, and you still want to have the pink modulation on a resonant curve. We have the LFO rate here, and there are 3 settings There is slow, which goes really slow. Just speed that up a little bit. It's about as fast as it gets there. Then we have fast. Now fast is not dissimilar to the rate of the LFO1, though it does go a wee bit faster. And then curiously, in the center of the switch, it starts quite fast, and this will kick all the way up into the audio range, which can be useful again if you're using this in an audio range and you're using oscillator 3 in an audio range to cross-modulate, say, the filter. You can get some very crazy metallic sounds, especially if you pick on the triangle wave here. Anyway, you can modulate the VCOs with this control, and you modulate the VCF with that control. So you have two LFOs that can be targeted to the oscillators and the filter. Here we have LFO2 out, and when a jack is a cable is inserted into here, anything coming out of this pot goes out of here, goes out towards where you target it. It could be within here, or it could be to your external instruments. So that's quite useful. Just like LFO1, we have on here on LFO2 he volts in again, and I'll demonstrate exactly what that does later. So this is your this is the front panel. It's a compact device, and it's nice and solidly built. One thing I forgot to mention is that we also have a momentary trigger switch here, which is good for percussive stuff, or indeed if you just want to hold it down. So I think what I'll do is I'll just spin this this way. M2, Macbeth, that's my one, my second unit. What we have is power in here. Now that comes from AC adapter, but I made inclusion on the unit for the inclusion of a Doepfer style power cable, and I'm just picking one up here. Let's just move this a sec. So this is with the front panel off, and there's a whole load of circuitry under the front panel, but this circuitry here is the oscillator section, and just here, right here, is this Doepfer style connector. Now if you like, you can remove the screws that hold the front panel on quite gently, and if you remove them, you can then attach a cable such as this to a Eurorack case with power. And that's what I'm doing just now. Here we have learn function, which is for the Kenton MIDI, and by pressing this button and using a MIDI controller keyboard, you can adjust certain controls within the Micromac D. This here is a standard 1/4" jack output. And finally, just on this overview of what the thing looks like, or whatever, at the rear we have the calibration, because this being an analog instrument, it will at some point require a degree of recalibration. So all the preset potentiometers are accessible via these holes. And that's that. So I'll call this the end of video 1, and the next video we'll start to hear some sounds, but I just wanted to give you an overall impression of what the Mac D has to offer and what it looks like. Thank you.